What was the scariest thing you have seen or heard? I worked with a kid in New Baltimore, Michigan, about 30 minutes from Detroit. He was a pizza delivery guy. One day he didn't show up to work. His mom came in worried. She didn't know where he was, but his debit card was being used. He had been carjacked picking up a sub for his GF, shot in the head, and left in a house they later burned to the ground. The motherfucker who killed him did it for a gang initiation. His name was Matthew Landry, and I still think about him all the time. My best friend called me at 3 AM. He said goodbye. Honestly, you were my only reason, but sometimes it just hurts too much. I immediately called the cops and drove to his house. We found him in his closet. Unfortunately, he had passed away. I was only 16, but we knew each other for years. It was just me and him against the world. We would get bullied a lot, but we had each other. I miss him every day, even 3 years later. Watching the entire back of an underground mine fail in front of you with men under it. Buddy was running a scoop tram in a mine in BC when the shotcrete and rock bolts all sort of fell off the back of the drift, bring with it most of the rock above. Dude lived because the cab was reinforced, but it could have been so much worse. That's the moment your blood turns cold, because there is not a damn thing on earth you can or could have done differently. I also got to witness a buddy almost get killed by a rock burst while underground diamond drilling. The 2.5-inch core drill punched into a steam pocket and shot the drill pipe and the rig back about 10 feet in an instant. The drill operator's usually behind a steel plate that acts as a shield. There was a sliver of rock 4 inches long stuck halfway through it. My point being, underground mining is dangerous as fuck. So, this happened a long time ago. Like, seriously, the only way I remember this is because of the near-death experience. So, when I was little, I was home alone. My parents had a pet dog. I was instructed to go to sleep at 8, I think. So I fell asleep for a few hours. My parents had gone to a concert, so they were gone past 1 PM. So I'm suddenly woken up around 11 by my dog barking. I go downstairs, and he is sitting by the door. I tell him to come with me, and he keeps sitting and barking by the door. I looked out the windows, but nothing was there. Then my dog stopped and went upstairs with me. I locked my door with my dog in my room and went back to sleep. I woke up around midnight to police sirens and police breaking my bedroom door down. My parents had got home early due to wanting to get home before traffic and had discovered that a friend of my dad had broken into my house through the roof and was planning to kidnap me and hold me for ransom. If my parents hadn't gotten home early, I probably would been kidnapped, my dog cold died, and I cold been killed. So, thank you post-concert traffic. Once I was back home over some break in college. My family was driving me crazy. You all know how is it once you move out and then come back. So I decided I was going to go for a run at the trailer around this huge city park right by my house. It's just a 5,000, very close to my house, and I used to have to run it all the time for soccer in high school, so I felt really comfortable going there, even though it was late, just after 10 PM. I just wanted to get out of the house. It's late and it's cold, so the trailer round and the park are pretty dead. I see a couple who look like Olympic runner types, and that made sense that they'd be out exercising. I'm almost finished, the track is a circle, and I'm almost back at the part near where I park my car, and I see the first other person I've seen since the really fit couple. She's coming from the other direction. She's jogging, but she's doing it backwards. So I can see her, but her back is facing me. As we get closer, I start to see that it's super awkward. Her gait is almost Cerebral Palsy-esque, and, as you might imagine, running backward on a curved track is kind of bad idea. So her head is turned kind of far to the side, so she can jog backward and stay on the trail and not hit the fence. It got weirder though. She's not in running clothes at all. She's in jeans, ballet flats, and a short sleeve polo shirt. Her hair is down and basically all in her face. It's giving the heebie-jeebies, and I don't really know why. Like, sure, that's not normal running attire, but it's just clothes. We are getting closer and closer to where we are going to be shoulder to shoulder for a second, going separate ways. And if I were a dog, the hackles at the back of my neck would have been huge. My mental state, This is weird, but not a big deal. Has never been so divorced from my physical state. Shaky panic attack breaths, hair on the back on my neck up, adrenaline making my veins feel weird, etc. In my life. Before this I didn't really understand the whole my body was mutinying against my brain thing that people say. Everything except my brain was telling me to turn around rather than crossways next to this girl, but that would have meant running almost the entire track again to get to my car, and fuck that, lol. Anyway, it's too late. I'm like 10 steps away from being shoulder to shoulder with this girl, and keep in mind, she still has her back to me. I was planning on doing that awkward grin you do when you pass someone on a smallish part of the track. But it comes, and we are right next to each other, and I can't look at her. And I don't. It's been like 20 steps and it hits me that if she's still running backward that now she's staring at the back of my head. And I don't f***ing like it at all. I get these instant intrusive thoughts of her finishing winding up backward and just flinging forward at the back of my head. And immediately I stop running like running and start f***ing sprinting to my car. I get in and lock it, but for some reason I just can't bring myself to start it. I just keep scanning around for her, feeling frozen. Finally, whatever adrenaline issue I was having wore off, and I made the short drive to my house. Barely remember it, I couldn't stop thinking about the freaky girl. Absolutely nothing happening, and it's still the most freaked out and spooked I have ever been in my life. That's what I get for trying to exercise my frustration away instead of drinking like a normal person. My then girlfriend's roommate got ripped on some sort of drug in his room and started screaming. We went downstairs to see why he was screaming, and he just runs head first through the door and looked absolutely murderous. He started to talk about how she was too loud when she closed her bedroom door and how he could never put together his spoken word album with her in the house. So he was going to kill us both right now. Then someone called and he was like, "Hey, mom, what's up?" It was the closest I had come to a real, actual, to the end sort of fight. This probably isn't too bad compared to others, but I went downstairs at 12 o'clock to get some cheese and saw someone shine a light into my family's kitchen. I teleported out to that bitch in 0.5 seconds. I told my parents and they called 911. I grew up in a rural area and would occasionally hear bobcats howl at night. Sometimes it sounds like the howling of a large cat that's in heat, but sometimes it can sound like a human baby screaming at the same time that a large cat is growl screaming. It's unsettling enough that, even though I've heard it a number of times, it still gives me goosebumps and makes my heart race for the first few seconds. When I was younger, I don't remember how old, but early elementary school, I remember that I just had a strong gut feeling to wake up and sit up, so I did. I looked out my bedroom door and one of my mom's friends was in my doorway. He took a step or two and immediately lost balance and tried to grab my dresser to not fall. He ended up dragging my dresser with him and it destroyed my room. I went into autopilot and just got out of my room and went to my mom. My mom heard the crash and found him in my room and beat the shit out of him. He then ran away without shoes. I told her the story and we found out 3 to 5 days later that he overdosed. We don't know if it was on purpose or not, but he was gone. It still haunts me to this day. One night I was home alone with my kids. We were all in bed, kids were asleep, and I suddenly heard this horrible explosion off in the distance. When my husband came home he told me a gas truck had gotten into a wreck and exploded. 3 or 4 people died that night. When I was in 6th grade I read a lot of fanfiction. I was up reading at like 3 AM and I felt someone staring at me. I look up and saw a dull white figure standing in my doorway. I was tired and kinda chuckled and said "Hatero, no, a ghost," but when I said that, it moved and sprinted down the hallway. My brain immediately went into panic mode and I had an anxiety attack. It walked by the doorway once or twice, but I was too scared to get up and look. I shined my light at the doorway a few times, but it was never there. I haven't felt that amount of fear in years and I believe I never will. Went night sailing in my new, small, sailboat. Turned out it was on the night the snakes were swirling, mating. Boat started to take on water. Really thought I was going to die from being bitten to death by hundreds of water moccasins for some time. Fixed the leak. but boat was caught in dead wind spot and started being pulled toward lily pads, snake havens, by water currents. Barely made it home. This episode went on for about 2 hours. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Let us know your thoughts on this topic. See you soon.